Hello, good morning. So glad you could join us. I am Becky Holloway. I head up marketing here at Drone Legends, and I'm very pleased to be joined by our auspicious panel of experts and volunteers. So we've got Scott Buell, who is the CEO and founder of Drone Legends. We've got Sheryl Chesnutt, who is the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club in Rutherford County. And we've got TJ Bruster, who is one of the program directors at the Boys and Girls Club. And they have very graciously agreed to share their experience using Drone Legends in their club with the students. So we want to share a little bit about what that experience is like and what Drone Legends can offer to your individual clubs. So Scott, I'm going to hand things over to you to kick it off with some introductory remarks.
Yeah. Well, hi, Carol. Thank you for joining us. And Carol, real quick, where are you located? I'm curious. Where are you based?
I'm in Glens Falls City Schools, upstate New York.
Upstate New York. Very good. I'm down in the Philadelphia region, and Sheryl and TJ are in Tennessee. We've got Becky here in the New Jersey and Alice. So thank you for joining us today. I think you're going to find this really informative. It's been a great experience working with the Boys and Girls Clubs, and we're thrilled to have you here today. I'm the founder of the program. I met Sheryl going on, it's been 2 years now. One of the first to join the official program coming out of the pandemic. We had gone virtual for a while. I founded the company in the winter of 2020, and we know what happened then. But coming out of that pandemic, Sheryl was introduced to me. We were introduced by a mutual friend, and she saw the alignment between our organizations, and it's snowballed from there. So I'll give a little brief introduction. I've got some slides to share. Let me put those up. All right. So welcome to the webinar. I appreciate you joining us today. I started with this as I was putting slides again. I don't want to overslide. I don't want to death by PowerPoint us, but so I wanted to do a few introductory slides. And the first thing I looked at, and Sheryl, you and I talked about this when we first met, is your mission, the Boys and Girls Club's mission to reach full potential. I really highlight that as the core of what you're about. And when I look at that, I give the goosebumps because this is ours. So we start with the belief that inside every child lives a legend. It's just our fancy way of saying potential, right? That inner legend, the unique potential in every one of us. So our mission is to use the magic of drones to unlock the unique potential in children around the world. They all deserve it. And there's something inside every one of us. I believe that. As the founder of this company, I very much believe that. So there's this great alignment with our visions, right? We want to bring out the best in people. And we find that drones are a great way to do that because they're engaging. The children love to work with them. Not only do the children love to work with them, some of the bigger children love to work with them, like the instructors. There's an incredible career track here that we'll talk about. And there's all the STEM disciplines that you can wrap around drones as well. Joining us today, as Becky mentioned, is Sheryl and TJ. I've mentioned this as well. You know, Sheryl had the vision and TJ had the foresight to see what we were doing very early on and graciously brought us into their programs. We'll talk with them today about what their experience has been over the last couple of years, but truly one of the early adopters and dare I say early innovators around what the Drone Legends brand brings. So they had that vision, and we couldn't be more grateful for what they were giving us to do. Where are we today? In just a couple of short years, we've, in terms of just Boys and Girls Clubs, we've brought on Gloucester County, we've got Central Virginia, Palm Beach County has 7 locations running. Rutherford County has the 3 or 4. Sheryl, I wanted to clarify that, but I think you're in that range. Yep. Okay. So, you know, we're slowly starting to bring the Boys and Girls Clubs into the community. Just to give you a sense of what our reach truly is today, just in a short time, is we're now in nearly 200 schools. Also, you know, after school programs in schools around the country. We've also got programs running in New Zealand, big presence in Australia. And as recent as last week, we've now got the students of Guam joining us in our Drone Legends adventures. So truly an international community that's being established here. What is Drone Legends? It's a turnkey STEM program. It is fully integrated. It's the key here is that it's turnkey, simple to execute. It's developed by educators for not just educators, but instructors. It's really designed for the novice to be able to pick it up, use it, run it. We go for unlimited professional development. We know that if we have to empower your educators and your instructors to run this program. So it's a full 10-course program, and it's super engaging. And we base it on real world experience, real world drone missions. So we're helping researchers find the hotspots at Mount Erebus, and they're scanning the coastline for sharks. And there's even a drone on Mars for real. Mimi Ong and her team at NASA's Jet Propulsion Labs put a drone on Mars. So we pull it out of real world headlines because drones are the future. And the future's today. Look at this. The global drone services market, that's a real number, $134 billion a year industry by 2028. That is an incredible opportunity for our students and our children, our young children, to move into this space, whether they want to be engineers, programmers, operators, entrepreneurs. There's real world opportunity here in the drone services market. And this is what it looks like. I talked about Mars. 2 years ago, Mimi Ong and her team at NASA's Jet Propulsion Labs put Ingenuity on Mars. There's a little drone flying around on Mars right now. It's incredible. We're helping with wildlife conservation. There's a huge industry building up around precision agriculture. In Fresno, California, we have 30 elementary schools in that district running our program. Why? Because they're a huge agricultural center, and drones are playing a critical role in agriculture. We're delivering life-saving medicines and helping with species restoration. The list goes on and on and on. So with that said, I'd like to introduce the panel. I do have one short video to show you from Cassandra Tannenbaum. She is the director of Palm Springs Boys and Girls Clubs, and she had this to say.
One of the things that I love about the Drone Legends curriculum is that the entire package is designed for the kids to feel engaged and an active part of the world of emerging technology as it pertains to drones and the uses of that technology in a number of different real life scenarios for our.
And just to put some context, Sheryl and TJ might remember that was our training session that we did down in Rutherford County. Those were instructors learning how to pilot and use the drones prior to jumping in and running the program. Okay, there we are. I'll leave it back to Becky to run the panel.
Yeah, so the way we wanted to do today's discussion was really kind of like almost like a fireside chat. So I'm just going to throw some different questions out there for you, Sheryl and TJ, and can kind of tag team the answers as it is appropriate. But where I want to start is, what are some of the ways that when you were looking at doing this program that you saw alignment between the Boys and Girls Club mission and values and those of Drone Legends?
Well, I'll begin. I think that we feel successful when kids dream big, when they have a vision for their future, or we can plant seeds in their imagination that help them see their future in a bigger way. And all those are cliche statements, but really and truly, we've got to expose children to different avenues of learning. Different children learn in different ways. But ultimately, like your mission, we want kids to reach their full potential, but unless they have these ideas, they might not even know what that is.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. TJ, I see you nodding.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in 100% agreement with Ms. Sheryl. Yeah, I mean, as much as we can possibly expose the kids to that would build them and not just tear them down, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and I know from talking with both of you in the past, you may be working with kids who are not necessarily getting exposure to, some of this technology. So this is giving them an opportunity that they might otherwise not have and explore some different options.
For sure. And when you consider, not every child is an athlete, but every child benefits from an opportunity to environment. And that's one thing I really liked about the Drone Legends program is the teamwork involved with each activity. children are assigned roles and jobs. And TJ is the instructor. I'm just the observer and the visionary. But what I observe and what I see when the drones program is being conducted is before.
Yeah, so you each have kind of a unique perspective. Sheryl, you may be more at the macro level, and TJ, you're very much boots on the ground, involved in implementing the program, working with the kids. But I'd love to hear from you both in terms of what made you want to focus on drones as an area of STEM for the kids you work with. There's a lot of different things you could be doing. There's a lot of different STEM programs out there. But what was it about drones in particular that that resonated with you guys?
I hope you can hear me. The thing, but our kids aren't going to get a drone for Christmas. Number one, the
Right.
kids we serve aren't going to get one. But kids. And typically, even Boys and Girls Clubs start workforce development at the high school level, but exposing kids to workforce opportunities needs to be dropped down. You know, now the thing is starting that in middle school, but I think even younger kids can start finding their gifts at an earlier age when we expose them to programs like Drone Legends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wasn't a part of choosing the program. I was just chosen to teach it, but I think anything that's out of the ordinary from what they're already learning in school that we can offer them would really just impact the kids in a great way, because when they come to us, they don't want to continue doing what they've been doing in school all day. And so things like this, opportunities like this, I think are huge.
Yeah, it's highly interactive, and it's definitely different than sort of a typical classroom learning environment.
Right.
And it gets everybody involved, which is fantastic, right? Everyone has a role to play, even though there's only one pilot, right? Everybody's got a role to play in the experience of flying the different missions.
I loved observing the kids. I mean, they're using skills they learn in school. We're just extending their knowledge. You know, I love seeing them grab a measuring tape. I love them with their notepad doing math problems to figure out where to make a turn or raise a drone. You know, they're measuring in inches to make it through obstacles. So a lot of kids do math on paper, but a lot of kids don't get to make what they've learned on paper. They don't get to apply it to something like a mission that they can get their hands on. So, you know, the teamwork involved in that is great. And, you know, they're checking each other, they're cheering for each other, they're working in a group. And, you know, in some cases they're failing together, but they learn that that's not the end. They learn to reassess what went wrong and to try again. Those are invaluable tools to give kids.
Yeah, troubleshooting, teamwork, collaboration. Yeah, these are, and you're actually getting to do it in the context of, you know, a guided mission. So
yeah,
that's good. So TJ, when you began teaching the Drone Legends curriculum and implementing it, I'm curious if you could share some of the stories of, you know, what were the reactions you got from the kids? What have you seen? I know you've run this program several times with different groups.
Yeah,
How
so
did they respond?
I mean, in all different ways. We've had the kids that were super excited to get started, and just hit the ground running. And then we had the kids that had no idea what their parents just signed them up for. They came in, they were very hesitant, kept to themselves. And then as soon as they got that first taste of being able to fly a drone, they were hooked. So I don't really, it always starts, the kids are very hesitant, except for that one or two that are just ready to go. They've seen it before, they've seen it online. And then as soon as they get that, like I said, that first taste of what it's like, they're just all about it. And they, I mean, all of the kids ask, when is it starting back up? Or they'll see the first group. I mean, they'll see the group of kids that I'm working with, and then as soon as I walk out of the room, it's every kid that's not involved asking, how can I be a part of it?
Yeah, I know, Scott, you tell a really interesting story from some of the kids we work with out in California. And it's one of the stories that has stuck with me. Mario, right? Like at the back of the classroom, kind of like not so interested. Maybe you could share that experience a little bit.
I mean, a couple of things. I mean, I'm just listening to Sheryl and TJ here echo, and it's exactly why and how we constructed the program so that we were casting that wide net. You know, to Becky's point, one of the things that we talk about is there's a reason we're drone legends and we're not like drone bots or blocks or bytes, because, you know, truth and transparency, I was a little bit of one of those kids in the back of the room. I was kind of a hard kid, and then I had some issues, right? And when I set out to create this program, when you look at our mission of that inner potential, I wanted to cast a wide net. And I know that the STEM kids will seek out those STEM disciplines. The coders are going to find coding things, and the engineer-minded children are going to seek that stuff out. But what about that kid? Well, maybe you don't want to be a programmer, maybe you don't want to be an engineer, but don't you want to come be legendary? Like, we're doing drones, man. Let's go. This is great. And so we cast this wide net and we bring these non-STEM kids into our world. And to Cheryl's point, next thing you know, they got their tape measures and their metric and they're calculating averages, and they have no idea what they're learning. They just know that they're having a great time, but we know all that they're learning. Math and literature and engineering design and problem solving and iteration. And so there's a little boy in Fresno, California. His name's Mario. One of our instructors, one of the instructors out there wrote us and said, Mario was that kid. And we have a mission where they do the 3D coordinates, guys, right? With the pollen, where we're helping map pollen with researchers in Japan, because our drones fly in 3-dimensional space, which is really cool. Well, there's coding in 3-dimensional space, which is like integrating an X, Y, and a Z axis. And it sounds complicated, but when you break it down and they watch it, they can see it. It's not just this theoretical thing. It's being applied in real life in front of them. Mario made the connection that, oh, my Fortnite characters jump around like that in 3-dimensional space. And that's a video game. And so programming, because we do coding, it's simple block-based coding, but it's great introductory to the discipline. And Mario said, I want to be a game programmer. So that's a breakthrough, right? Yeah. Started with drones. Drones were what lured Mario in. He had no idea that he was going to ultimately end up coding and become a programming person. And all of a sudden now we have a little guy like Mario that wants to be a video game programmer. And we have countless examples of that. And I'm sure Sheryl and TJ have stories of their own about children that have been had to their eyes. They have those breakthrough moments.
Yeah.
I'll share a story, and it's not about my observation as much as we invited a funding partner in for observation because we wanted to, you know, be able to get support to continue the program. And, you know, we live in a highly industrial region with Nissan and all these supporting companies with car parts and things. And, you know, workforce development is a big deal here. Teaching kids technical things and dropping the age to a younger age is a big deal in the region we live in. And so these kids were trying to explain it. I didn't have to sell anything. TJ really didn't have to sell anything. The kids sold it because the level of their excitement and their enthusiasm when they were sharing what they had learned and why they loved it, sold. It was great. It was a great day. I'm sure you remember that, TJ.
I do. Yeah, it's wild to see the kids that you don't think would want anything to do with it. And I mean, if they, like I said, if they are in the room and they see it, as soon as they get that first taste. I mean, I've had a 12-year-old girl that, I mean, was all about TikTok and all of that good stuff and wanted nothing to do with anything school related. As soon as she came in and started working with a drone, she was oh, I could attach my phone to my drone and have it, I could program it to loop me as I'm doing my TikTok dances. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
all of the things that get combined together, and the kids that work together, kids that don't normally go to the same school, same age group, I mean, same social class, that as soon as they get together and put them on the same team, they have no option but to work together and realize that they either succeed or fail together. And that transfers outside of the Drone Legends classroom and into just their daily lives at the club.
Yeah, that's actually a perfect segue into my next question. So, you've run this program for a couple of years now. Can you speak to the long-term benefits that you've seen with the kids who have done this program? What sort of traits or inspiration or aspirations have come out of it?
Yeah, so I mean, it gets kids out of their comfort zone, in which you can see just bleed over into the regular general population of the Boys and Girls Club, and I'm sure at school, which I don't get to see, but them getting out of their comfort zone allows them to talk to people they wouldn't normally talk to, hang out with people they wouldn't normally hang out with, and try things within the Boys and Girls Club that they previously wouldn't want anything to do with. Normally, because the kids that they were working with in Drone Legends are now doing something outside of Drone Legends, and they want to be a part of that with them as well.
Yeah, so forging relationships and connections with people. That's great to see.
And it gives them confidence. We have, and I'm sure at your Boys and Girls Club, Carol, we have reading programs to help the kids be confident in their response at school. We have tutors to give them confidence with their academics. And this gives them confidence working as a team, confidence in math, what they've learned and being able to apply it in science. And what do they want most after going through the program? They want more. So then it really puts us in a position to find, what's the next thing as we keep introducing this program to our younger kids. What's the next thing? They want more of it. They don't want it to stop.
And Scott, you can speak a little bit to that, because we obviously have a lot of product development in the pipeline right now. So maybe you could give a little bit of a teaser there for what's coming down.
Yeah, I mean, that's always the challenge. As a younger company, we've only been doing this for a few years, right? I've been flying drones for about 8 now, and the industry has really changed incredibly so since I started. It was a hobby thing when I picked it up 8 years ago, and today it's, like we talked about, the commercial applications, it's everywhere. Just Google zipline drones and watch what they're doing in the space. It's amazing, as of last week. And that zipline, you can't miss it. They're all over the headlines. They're going to change delivery, and they're amazing. They did a webinar for us years ago. The thing is, they always want more, right? So to Sheryl's point, they don't want it to end, and so we're creating new content. We're creating new levels. We've got some electronic content being developed. There's a new kind of wave of stuff coming out that is the precision drone piloting, which is more of if you've ever seen where they wear the goggles, almost like a VR, and the pilots are flying like they're inside the drone, and that's opening up big avenues of cinematography, competitive e-sport, and in real life, teaching kids how to pilot in that environment. So that's kind of next on the level, and then additional STEM-based programming as well using the current drones. So there's a whole lot in play here. We're really trying to build out a K through 12 career pathway model using drones at the core. So we've even got something, Little Legends, which is in development, which will be launching in the fall, which will be a K through 3 program. It won't use real drones, but it'll be drone scenario based, and it'll focus more on gamification, working in teams to solve the complex challenges. But yeah, lots of things in the works. We are excited when we hear that they don't want it to end. So we want to continue to develop great content.
Yeah, definitely. And for those kids that aren't interested in STEM, TJ, maybe you can talk a little bit about how accessible was it for those kids? Maybe not the resistant kids, but I think STEM kids kind of can be pigeonholed as like, super math oriented or whatever, but STEM or STEAM is actually really broad. There's lots of different applications, and it's not just robotics and it's not just coding. So how accessible has this been for kids who are really not oriented towards like that traditional STEM path?
Yeah, so we actually are blessed with a fine arts school that's right across the street from us. So we do actually have a bunch of those kids that are very STEM and STEAM oriented. But we also have some not so fortunate schools also close to us that we serve their youth. And it just offers them the ability to see that they may be interested in STEM and STEAM, but it also allows them to work with the kids that are, and just kind of learn through those avenues as well.
Yeah. Okay. So,
when kids, especially boys and girls clubs and the youth, the underserved population that we serve, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
you're back.
You're back.
Yeah, my internet is very spotty. I'm sorry. I was
No
just going to
worries.
say, when young kids are worried about making it from day to day, they tend not to dream about their future. So if we can give them any experience that helps them dream bigger, like Drone Legends is just a classic, wonderful example. Kids are amazed that they can do something like that. I'm amazed. This makes sense to me because they maybe have never felt smart before, or they've never put 2 and 2 together with what they're forced to learn in school with how, what am I going to do with this, right? Do you remember learning and saying, what am I going to do with this? How am I ever going to use this?
Right.
It answers some of those questions. So it just is a very unique opportunity to help kids dream big.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. So I know we have a smaller group today, but Carolyn and Deborah, I'd love to loop you in here as we start to talk a little bit about what it's like to actually implement a program like this. So this is going a little off script, but if you are comfortable just sharing what you all have done in your clubs with regard to STEM education.
I can start. I'm actually, it's not a club. We're in a school district. So I am an instructional technology coach, former 25-year math computer science teacher as well. New York State has these lovely computer science digital fluency standards that are coming about, which is awesome. And I took the chance to help our district. At that point, I was the only one in the district with computer science background to help implement those standards for our district K-12. So that started last school year. Last year, I dug out our drones, which were, hadn't been touched since before COVID. Our other instructional technology coach, who has gone to the library and left me by myself at this point, had tried to, she tried to charge the batteries, couldn't get them charged. And I found it, that was my mission. I'm getting these going. We're starting this, we're doing this. So I found different chargers. I got all the batteries up and charging, and they last for about, anywhere between 1.5 minutes and 3 minutes, but yeah, we got it going and we got them in the kids' hands last year. And, I honestly, we bought my son a couple drones. They crashed in the first week. That was our only experience with drones at my house. And so I learned with the kids, and I told them, I said, this is me doing it with you first time. So we pushed into a brand new computer science classroom we had in the middle school. And the last week of their rotation, which was one class was a 5-week rotation, one was 6. we brought in all sorts of electronics, and I ran the drones out in the hallway with the kids, and anyone who wanted to play with them came out.
Great.
And it was great. It was absolutely fantastic. So
Wow.
this year we decided to increase it. So we chose the 5th and 6th grade level. So at the end of every 6-week rotation, I go over to the middle school and we let the kids play, and we have new batteries, which last longer than 3 minutes, which is fantastic. Our drones are still running off a router, which is tough because we can only really run 3 to 4 max on it. And I don't know if it's an issue with IT. I'm not sure. I haven't figured that part I haven't figured out yet. But we can only run 3 or 4 drones at a time. And so the kids get to play, and I go in for a couple days. And then this year, I work with a STEM teacher in the high school, and we developed a 2-week, turned into 3-week because of snow days and stuff, but a drone unit for them, where we started with, talking about, how drones came about, with the whole history. We had the state police come in and demonstrate their drones. We did a search and rescue where the kids actually created the fields. And they were so creative. They were great. We had some tidal waves, we had some power lines, we had some volcanoes, we had some, desert islands, everything scenarios where the kids flew in the drones and saved someone from it. And they had a blast doing that. And most of these kids had never even touched the drones before. And then the last, we actually made single motor drones with them and in their groups. And we had to tether them down because we had no controls on them. That was the first time. That was my spring break. Spent all February break trying to figure out what works best, and ordering and returning stuff from Amazon, and, figured out what worked best and ordered a bunch for the kids and brought it in, and they had a blast. It was so much fun. So
That is
We're-
incredible.
yeah.
That's incredible.
we're on board to start a rotation just on its own in the middle school of just drones. And our high school is looking for a program to expand, and hopefully at some point get to the point where the kids can earn their 107 license.
Yeah. So that's amazing. So listening to you talk, I always think about there's so many. By the way, are you using the Telos? Is that what you use?
Yes.
Yeah. So your batteries sat for a while and discharged, as you know, they got just damaged. New batteries will give you about 10 to 12 minutes, depending upon what you're doing with them. In terms of the router, they beam their own little SSIDs. So we don't really ever connect to a single location. They all have kind of their own little Wi-Fi signal. So that's pretty interesting to see that you're getting about 3 or 4 up. I think we can get a little more. Maybe we can talk and I can help you through it. But, listening to you talk, there's like 2 camps. And Carol, you seem very advanced, right? In being able to bring your own programs in. And so when we developed the Drone Legends curriculum, what we were looking at is, what about people that have no clue? We have to structure it for them, and it allows them then to bring in their instructors at the Boys and Girls Clubs places that don't have any technical expertise or background necessarily. And then we train them up, and this program runs like a turnkey system, where what you're doing sounds incredible. So kudos to you for pulling that together, because I know, having done it myself, what it's like to run these in the schools, and it's very fun. It's very exciting. So thank you for sharing that. That's incredible what you're doing.
Yeah. And Deborah, I don't know if you want to share a little bit about what you're doing in STEM related activity.
Morning, and I apologize for stepping in late. I think I actually met with Scott a few months ago about Drone Legends. I'm with the Boys and Girls Club of Mercer County, and when we heard that East Rutherford was running the Drone Legends program, we wanted to really see how you guys were using it in your programming. To date, we have done various sessions on STEM fields, working with our corporate partners. Like, we've looked at medical science, we've looked at civil engineering, cosmetic science. I mean, different fields. I haven't worked with drones at all.
So you would be the optimal person for why Drone Legends was established. Whereas Carol is, working in that advanced level, being able to implement. A lot of times it comes down to just time too, Carol, right? Like you only have so much time in a day. But Deborah, for someone like yourself, and I think I heard it in your voices, it almost feels an intimidation factor, right? Like, oh my gosh, drones, how are we even going to do this? And that's exactly why Drone Legends exists. I mean, TJ might be able to talk a little bit about the ease of implementation of it is turnkey. So just give you a little bit of background. When I started the program a few years ago, there was nothing publicly available that I found. There were lots of people, not lots, I'm saying very few people like Carol that were crushing it. And lots of people like yourself that were interested, but didn't know where to start. And I kind of fell in between those two bookends. And so I didn't see anything. What I did see is a lot of technology companies pushing a lot of technology at people and without a lot of ways to give them opportunities to use it. And so I thought that wasn't really fair, nor did I think that's what we wanted to do. So we brought in STEM educators that knew nothing about drones and said, you've got to build this as if it were you starting for your first time. How would you do this if you know nothing? And then they created a program that literally walks you from crawl to walk and then ultimately to run. And it's as literally as simple as that. TJ, maybe you want to chime in a little bit about your experience of being onboarded with the program.
Yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't have said it any better myself. It's so like step by step, but so easy to just go from here's how you go from knowing nothing to here's how you do everything. I mean, and it builds, all of the lessons build upon themselves. So it starts out teaching you, then you teach the kids what you've just learned, and then by the end of it, everybody's learning from everybody. Everybody's teaching everybody something else because they figured it out on their own. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
Cool. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really good. Did you run into any challenges or hiccups that made it hard? Like, let's be real, right? I mean, it's never going to go 100% smooth. What were some of the challenges you had to work through?
I think the biggest challenge that I ran into was finding a central location to charge all the batteries. And then just making sure that I had one area that I could use consistently to run the program. Once we got all that figured out, it ran pretty smooth. But those are some challenges that I'm sure any club could run into.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
You need to do a Carol always. Right, Carol?
So if you're, if for those clubs that are considering a program like this, what type of advice would you give to them, things to think about as they're considering adopting something like Drone Legends?
I think some smaller clubs may say we don't have money in our budget to do something like that, but I'm here to tell you that people are interested in young persons learning coding, learning about drones, being comfortable with technology, and you will find a sponsor. You will they just need to observe. I mean, it will, we're a nonprofit, so we're not trying to make money, but to support some of our programs that, have an annual cost, we're not thinking twice about continuing and upgrading when there's upgrades available, because there's so much attention on children learning at a younger age. And this is, other coordinators that were like pros of the period of time. It's something to behold. I loved it.
Awesome.
That's good advice. So in terms of hopes for the future of drone education at your club, obviously you've mentioned, having new missions, new things that the kids who've already gone through the 8 missions can enjoy. What else are you hoping for the future of drone education at your club?
I'd love to hear what Scott was talking about with VRs.
Yeah.
Because for our high school kids, we are giving them some career exploration opportunities, virtual reality wise. We've invested in that in the future and found funders for that. That's what I'm telling you. You can find funding for that for sure. So I think that's an awesome next step.
Yeah.
I was excited to hear that you're doing that. I mean, we obviously want to keep reintroducing the basics, but we want to keep the kids that are already hooked involved somehow.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Great. I'll talk a little bit about that. It's the drone racing. If you've ever seen it, it's pretty intense. There's an actual professional league now that you can see on NBC, CBS. It's called the Drone Racing League. Their drones are sizable. They're doing about 110 miles an hour through major obstacle courses. It's unbelievable. And they wear the goggles that the students see through. And pardon me for a moment. So what we saw was, students truly want to get into that. And it's an interesting sport because it blends e-sport with hybrid and in real life. What do I mean by that? Flying in FPV mode, first person view, is very different from a Tello, Carol. So Carol, you've had experience with the Tello. That's what we'll call a line of sight drone. It's like my DJI Mavic, right? Which I'm charging here because I've got to shoot later today. These drones you watch them from the sky. You see them in your line of sight. You're watching the screen, but you also see them. And that's what the Tello is about, right? They've got fixed cameras and things like this versus a racing drone, an FPV drone that flies in what's called acro mode. Acro mode allows drone to do very acrobatic things, just what it sounds like. It can do outside loops and full barrel rolls, but it's very complicated and difficult to fly. It takes a lot of practice, which is why most people don't step into that world of teaching it, because how do you necessarily teach it? And so we've been asked, by people like Sheryl and some of our other customers, of what's next. What about that drone racing thing? We've seen that. So we started to look at it. The drones this is a little kit, which you fly in. The students practice with what's called a tiny whoop. A tiny whoop is, just think about it in the size, TJ, compared to the Tello. This little drone, what it doesn't do, Carol, when you take off your Tello, you notice it hovers, right? No, this is acro mode. You are in full control the entire time. So it's a precision piloting. The pilots then wear that little controller at the top. You might see this little signal that links to this. And they're seeing that there's an antenna that plug into the top of this, and it connects to the channel. So now the students are riding inside the cockpit of the drone. They're literally sitting in the drone, and what they see is that first person view, and there's no stabilized gimbal on it. It's not stable. So when the drone turns, the video turns, right? They see it this way, they see it this way, and then they race. And then using more sophisticated equipment. Controllers are a little different. They're more like RC controllers. They've got different kinds of modes. So we're using that, but there's a simulator as well. So why did I say all that? I say all that because before you ever touch that, you work in a simulator, a flight simulator. Just like a pilot with an aircraft spends time, they have to put hours behind a simulator to get proficient. This is what we do as well. So in this new program, we're starting a new program called the FPV Initiator Program. And the FPV Initiator will take, just like we did in STEM fundamentals, it'll assume zero knowledge about this at all for both instructors and students. And this is, one could argue there's STEM in here, and I'll get to that in a moment, but it's also very much like a sport because there's practice involved. There's a lot of time. So we will teach the fundamentals about all the equipment. It's just like I use the analogy of somebody kind of landing down from another planet and they have to tell people about how to play lacrosse, for example? What if I have a group of kids and a group of instructors that have never seen lacrosse in their life? What do I have to start with? Well, why is one stick longer than the other? And why is that netting look different than that netting? And what is the circle around? We have to break it down. All of that is going to be covered in this curriculum of understanding the technology, understanding the equipment, understanding the kind of the rules of engagement, how it works together, teaching instructors how to conduct practice sessions, not just classes, because this becomes a competitive sport in addition to opening up advanced career pathways, because precision pilots are in demand. We've seen, if anybody knows who Michael Bay is, he's a famous director that the Terminator stuff. He likes to blow things up on giant movie screens. He's really known for that. Well, he's always looking for the next greatest, latest and greatest cinematic innovations. And what did he do? In his latest thing, Google it. You can look at a documentary on his latest movie called Ambulance. If you just Google Ambulance FPV, he picked the top person from the Drone Racing League, brought that person into his film crew. They created a new rig for him to fly, and he's half the movie shot in FPV cinematography. So you're coming through underneath ambulances upside down as they're flying through the air. And so there's this whole new world of cinematography opening up for pilots that are capable of flying in this particular, what we call a precision pilot. It's a very defined kind of piloting thing. I'll also argue that infrastructure is being impacted about that. Infrastructure inspection. You need to be able to get into small, tight spaces that my Mavic will never fly into, right? It just won't. But little micro drones with high impact cameras can. And so a precision pilot has a leg up potentially on other pilots coming out with just line of sight skills, I'll argue. And then there's the whole racing component. So we work in a simulator. We have a leagues forming as well. So the Unified Scholastic Drone Racing Association. Why did we form a league in addition to a curriculum? Because what we heard is there's no safe space, to use that kind of a term, for young children or even high school children to race competitively once they've learned how to do it. There are other leagues out there that are open to the general public. But what happens with that is it becomes filled with anybody and everybody. And so tournaments tend to turn into things that you might not want students involved with, right? They can be very adult, if I can just use those kind of terms, and we'll read between the lines. So there was a need for a league that was peer-to-peer, age specific, and that we could bring the kids in so that they're competing in parity with their peers in a non-threatening environment that allows, because it's intimidating, right? You get into this league and you're playing with semi-pros. Well, they're going to dust you. How do you get started? So anyway, that's coming in the fall, and that'll be a whole program that's built around that precision piloting network. I hope that was helpful.
So I know we are getting close to time. I want to open things up. Deborah, Carol, if you have any questions that you want to ask TJ or Sheryl or Scott about the program, the floor is yours.
Yeah.
Great. I'd love to ask, time-wise, how much time do you spend on the missions themselves?
Yeah, so I haven't ran it in maybe 3 months, so I can't really remember, but I know it can go from about an hour and 15 to about 45 minutes, depending on age group or just skill level. So yeah.
I can jump in. So the way that it was structured, and it's real flexible. So this is the educator lesson planner. So there's kind of components to it. This is the student mission guide. This is what the students work out of. There's 10 missions. They do not write in these books, so they're using these books over and over again. There's an educator portal with handouts because students follow Gimbal, the artificial intelligent drone, on these great missions. By the way, the program, as fun and exciting as it looks for the age group, STEM, NGSS, ISTE, CSTA, Common Core ELA, Mathematics, and STEM.org accredited. So it's all those alignments are built under this as well. It was written by educators. But to your point, Carol, each mission was structured as a 90-minute program. So here we're fighting fires. But there's ways in the educator planner in the beginning and in your training, we offer unlimited professional development, unlimited training. We have a breakdown on if you only have certain amount of time, so 1 hour, 45 minutes, how would you structure this program? Because each mission is modular. So you can pick up one part and stop it and then pick it up again day 2. So 10 missions, roughly 90 minutes. We've seen them shorter, seen them longer. It depends on how you want to pace it, but it's very flexible.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of them, there's building aspects to it, and you can build the stuff before the kids get in there instead of letting them build it. That can cut some time down. But also, like Scott said, you can allow them, if you have the ability, I mean, they could be in there for 3 hours flying the drones.
Yeah. And when you say build, TJ, I just want to clarify. So one of the things that we did is, again, in the interest of thinking about turnkey and letting everybody, how does everybody run this? We were looking for, Carol, you're probably going to laugh. We were looking for multi-dimensional, and I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but something that we could use in all the different missions. And we racked our brains. What are we going to do? Just fly through hoops? It's kind of limiting. What can we do with that? And then what else could we do? Is it chairs and tables? I wanted to create a system. We needed to build a system. So what happened was one of the leads on the project was she has 3 little kids, and she looks over one day as it's one of those things. It's one of those like lightning bolt moments, right? Where they're playing with this big fort builder set, these big, looks like a giant oversized Tinker toy set. And she went, I'll bet you I could build the entire curriculum around that. That's what TJ's talking about. So here in Mount Erebus, we work in teams: pilot, visual observer, safety director, and all the kids wear their safety lanyards and they rotate through those roles. But they're in teams and they build. So here, when we're going to Mount Erebus in the Antarctic, well, we build Erebus, right? And so each team grabbed 12 long poles and 6 short poles and 20 connector balls and meet and build Mount Erebus, because we're going to go scale Mount Erebus, and here it is, right? And they build it. And every mission, they're using that builder set. So what TJ's saying is to cut down on some time, you maybe pre-build for them, so they don't spend 15 minutes of the day building Mount Erebus that's already constructed for them. I didn't want to confuse that they build the drone, because we're not robotic.
No.
However, I will say, when we go back to the FPV program, already part of it is going to be repair your drone, because what is FPV? It also involves a lot of crashing, which is why we do simulators. But these drones are very, very small. I mean, they're so lightweight that they really don't break, right? But when they do, students, part of racing is repairing. It's kind of like working on your own car. If you're going to race a car, you got to figure out how to repair it when it breaks. Well, there'll be a big repair component to this as well. So they'll be understanding kind of how to do the ducted props and all that. They'll understand that.
Awesome. Any other questions, Carol, Deb? Well, if not, we're so glad you could join us. Sheryl, TJ, Scott, really appreciate all the information. This was recorded, so we'll be sending this back around if you want to look through any of the info. We would love to chat with you more about how we could potentially help you with drone education, either in your school or your club. You can check us out at dronelegends.com. Tons of great information there. You can request a demo if you want to see, personally how this can impact your program with your kids. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.